All right, November. It's Wicked month, and we'll be taking the Thoughtcast through a few select curios as we approach the upcoming film Wicked. So, yeah, welcome. I'm Philip, host of the Thoughtcast, conversations about animation. And yeah, very laid back episode today discussing strange magic. And I'm joined from Georgia by Bridget so far. And we might have some more people joining us on this little chat. But yeah, we're going to keep it pretty casual. So, Bridget, yeah, how's it going?
Pretty good. Life's back to normal. I'm in Georgia, so we had a really fun hurricane that came through and knocked down every tree apparently in the area, including some in my own backyard. But everything's basically kind of back to normal. There's have really big pits of tire or not tires of trees and stuff now all over the area, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been a minute, so I'm glad to be back watching some movies, talking about them.
Yeah, you were on a couple Ghibli films that we discussed, and yeah, we had been threatening some more Ghibli, but I don't know. I've gone on a couple detours with my sister and brother-in-law since then, and so yeah, we've just been up to a variety of different things here on the show, and yeah, the unfortunate about the crazy situation. Yeah, there've been kind of momentous, yeah, events that have intervened in reuniting with the Georgia crew. So good to know that things are kind of back to normal, sort of, with a few less signs of vegetation, sounds like. Uh,
Yeah, there's a lot of trees, a lot more than you expect here.
well, as we just sort of trickle into our subject, this fantasy film from 2015, a January release, as maybe we'll discuss the implications of that as we get further into this odd subject that we're covering. But yeah, Wicked Month. I mean, I settled on this movie as a topic just because it's an animated fairy tale that features voice talent, the voice talent of man, Kristen Chenoweth. I don't know if she's been or she hasn't been in a ton, I guess, in terms of animated features. But this was one that I thought of right away, and it's interesting as far as my interests go. Um, are you familiar with Strange Magic and also what is your general familiarity with Wicked?
So I was a theater kid.
Hmm.
I have been doing that defying gravity riff since I heard it in 10th grade. So I'm very much an Idina Menzel stan, Kristen Chenoweth stan. My daughter, who is 11, also is down to see Wicked because she is very, very, I guess, rehearsed in also all of her songs. So I'm like, oh, I'm like, sing for good with me. So you can do one part and I can do the other part. So I don't have to do both parts. So we're very much a Wicked household. So I'm really excited. I want to wear pink and go. I don't know if my husband will wear something, probably if I make him, but so I'm very excited. My daughter wants to go, but we'll see. So I actually had the not defying gravity, the Wicked book that was made about Elphaba beforehand too, which was weird.
Okay.
I liked it more as a musical.
A popular novel associated with the musical, but I'm not sure if if there's a separation in terms of timeline. I thought maybe it was a book first, and then the
I
uh,
think maybe it was it was, obviously based on the old Wizard of Oz books, which my Nana actually had the original Wizard of Oz books, from the old ones that I read when I was a kid. Um, so it was interesting to like, I think I listened to the music because obviously we like took snippets and stuff from that when I was doing theater because I was a big musical theater kid as well. So it's like we did a lot of those, little songs. I'm pretty sure For Good was the song they sang at our graduation. Two of the theater kids sang that at our graduation. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because it's like it's the context of that song is two characters who are like basically high school pals, more or less.
yeah, I'm sure like I mean I'm from, small town in Georgia, and I'm sure everyone that was not a theater kid was like, what is this? Because I didn't know a lot of people who knew Wicked at the time because it was on Broadway back then. And so I'm sure all the like country guys were like, what are they singing? Like, why don't you guys just do the As We Go On that song? Just do that song like they do every year. So yeah, our school was very much ingrained in like the musical theater scene, so much that my graduation song was also musical theater.
well, good to mix things up. Of course, Wicked's pretty peak as far as cultural saturation goes. And most people probably heard some of the songs just through osmosis. The book Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West was published in 1995, written by Gregory Maguire, illustrations by Douglas Smith. Yeah, it's a lot of spin-offs of Wizard of Oz have been done over the years, and they've gone off in a variety of different directions. It's officially a multiverse now. So, well,
James Franco's out there somewhere.
yeah, that, yeah, this will be a deviation from previous works, more perhaps more recent and of similar production value, like Oz the Great and the Powerful. Was definitely a very comprehensive look into that world. And of course, that original is just such a classic that, despite perhaps the technological limitations of the time, still holds up. And I think will have a tall order, or it'll be a tall order surpassing that original 1939 film with um, I'm sorry, Judy Garland, and yeah. Let's see.
Judy Garland, the only one that I can ever remember their name. Only Judy Garland, no one else.
Yeah, I can't remember any of the other actors' names offhand, but yeah. So these whimsical fantasy fairy tale musical settings and these works that we're kind of uh, delving into perhaps a little bit. I don't know. There were a couple ideas I floated for Wicked Month, including you know a film that Idina Menzel was in more recently that is just kind of fun and I thought would be interesting would be Uncut Gems. Not a musical, but still a
It's
fascinating.
not animated either.
Just it just move like it's a very in kind of fast moving film and just stylistically has a lot of interesting things going on. But this features the voice of Kristen Chenoweth, Strange Magic from 2015, and so we'll you know I don't know. There's probably not a ton to talk about with this film, but it's kind of fun and just a weird time capsule. Because yeah, it was a major flop, released in January 2015. It was just a little more than a year removed from the original Frozen at the end of 2013. So big breakout for Idina Menzel in animated musicals and her co-star, the originators of these key characters from the original Broadway run of Wicked, Elphaba and Glinda. And yeah, the in this film, Strange Magic, Kristen Chenoweth doesn't portray one of the lead protagonists, but she's a fairly prominent role. She plays the Sugar Plum Fairy, and it's an interesting, yeah. Well, it's a bizarre film. It's kind of an offbeat sort of film in general, but it's also a jukebox musical, so She is singing a previously existing um, pop song. So, yeah, what do you think of this attempt at a musical from sort of a not sort of a one-off animation studio? This wasn't one of the major like Pixar or Disney.
Yeah, so I had never heard of it, and maybe it just like, passed me by. I mean, I think Scarlett was like not even two yet. So I'm like, yeah, I guess like I wasn't really going to the movie theaters at that time. My kid wasn't going. So I was like, I don't ever remember hearing anything about this. And I also didn't know it was going to be a musical, which I love a musical. So that was fine. But yeah, I was just like, it was cute. I don't think it was like the best thing ever, but I found like things amusing. Obviously, I love Kristen Chenoweth. Evan Rachel Wood was in it. She's one of the main characters. And hello, she comes back in Frozen too.
We
So it's like it all full circle. They all come together.
Hey, we have a new co-host joining us, Laura from
Hello.
Yes, this sort of wicked and of course, this our podcast sort of revolves around uh, Frozen in a way. We're all huge fans here, and Disney animation, is of particular interest to us. Yeah, this movie that we're talking about today, Laura, of course, was released by Disney. They did not want to put their name on it. They put their Touchstone banner on it instead. And of course, it was produced by Lucasfilm, which had been recently acquired by Disney at the time of this film's release. But yeah, I don't know. I was excited for it when I first heard of it. Of course, they didn't announce it until like 2 months leading up to the release of Strange Magic. But when I first heard of it, I mean, I thought it sounded really cool that this was like sort of, I don't know, it had a similar vibe to like Frozen, and it was an Industrial Light and Magic, which is a huge CGI animation studio, not dedicated typically to the production of animated features, but just blockbusters in general, having worked on, you know, I don't like a significant quantity of the major Hollywood blockbusters of the past several decades, especially during the CGI era. Jurassic Park, the Terminator 2, the films that brought computer animation to the
Yeah,
mainstream.
Tron. Yeah, all of that.
Industrial Light, yeah, the studio that brought us this wacky musical, Strange Magic. But yeah, a Frozen spiritual successor, Stranger Things, perhaps was not, especially in terms of its reception. I don't know what's your take on Strange Magic, Laura?
Yeah, it's interesting. As a musical fan, I remember when this was first being announced, the first name that I heard was Kristen Chenoweth, which obviously, as a musical theater person, we all know her from many things, but most notably her portrayal of Glinda in Wicked, which I thought was so interesting because this was what, 2015, and about a year and a half prior, we have the other witch of Wicked leading a very large blockbuster phenomenon of a franchise with Frozen. So I was like, that's interesting that that's going on. So I thought when it was released that it would be in a similar vein, that it would be like, original music, like original world and all of that. And I was like, okay, that sounds really interesting and stuff. Was very surprised that it was a jukebox musical with songs from both present day, but also like really niche, like Burt Bacharach stuff, like some random Elvis. I think they tried to get Beatles in there, but like they couldn't quite get the rights and everything. Like it was just an interesting mix-mash of like what, 14 songs or something like that, which is, I think Disney movies on generally have about 6 songs each. So it was just like, all right, we're going Glee with all of this. Like it was very like, and then the mashups and everything. So like I didn't know that going into it, and that was an interesting surprise to be like, oh, okay. But I don't remember when this film. I think when this film came out, I don't remember seeing a lot of like marketing hype for it. Like all I really knew at the time was Kristen Chenoweth, and I was like, well, yeah, I love Kristen Chenoweth, but I didn't see, I don't think they really did much with merch, with like advertising, like McDonald's tie-ins. I didn't really see a lot of that. And I don't know if that's the direction Lucasfilms was really like wanting to go, especially because, I mean, you probably talked about this at the start. It's like George Lucas wanted to make this for his daughters as like a, the pre-tween equivalent of like a girl's like Star Wars, which is kind of an interesting way to posture it, but like it had been in development for like what, 15 years or something like that. So I wonder like where he was going with this. Like, why not have like dolls and things if you want to promote it to like 12-year-old girls and stuff? But like, yeah, those are some of my initial thoughts, but I have more to say moving in, but yeah, very, very intriguing.
Yeah, George Lucas's daughters were perhaps well into their adulthood by the time
Yeah.
it got released. He has three daughters apparently,
Mm.
Katie, Amanda, and one other. Um, and yeah, I don't know if his kids appreciated this movie, but maybe his grandkids who would more so. But yeah, I mean, it was dumped by Disney. It probably didn't test well. It's very kind of bizarre in its execution, and I don't know. Yeah, the overall vibes and stuff kind of it makes sense that it wasn't really given a big to do, even though it clearly had a lot of work put into it. I don't know, Bridget, do you think this was a movie that could have found a mainstream appeal, or does it make sense that Disney kind of just quietly released it after it had kind of become acquired by Disney in the sale of Lucas?
Well, so I know which you guys touched on. Like he was so basically George Lucas was like, well, Star Wars is for boys. I want to make something for girls. So I think this was maybe like a little bit of like a foray into making movies targeted at girls. A lot of the music that was in the movie was like music that he had collected rights for like over the years.
Right.
And so he was like, I want to use all these songs that I have the rights for. And I think maybe if there had been less music, I say that as a musical theater kid as well.
Right, right.
There were too many songs. I was like, this isn't
Yeah.
going to be a song where they're singing every 5 seconds because I like musicals, but not like that. Les Mis, this is not. And so I was like, I didn't know because I also had never heard of this. Apparently, I missed it when it came out. Never heard of it. And so when you mentioned it, I was like, okay. So I start watching it. It's like immediately we're singing. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I love Elvis. This works. Then they kept singing. And they kept singing. And it really was like a lot of the songs, like they made sense in relation to the film, but like all together, it wasn't really cohesive. So I think maybe had they done better marketing, maybe pushed it at a different time, not in January, maybe done this as like a spring or summer since they're fairies.
Yeah.
Maybe like pushed it at a better time. This could have been something that was interesting because they were songs like I love musicals where I know the songs. Like look at Trolls. Trolls has done so well. And yes, they have some original, but most of their songs are taken from other things and people love that. And so I think like it could have been successful because it was a cute movie.
Yeah.
It was cute. Like most of the animation was pretty good. Some of it was a little wonky, but for the most part was good. I think as a kid, had I been like 10 when it came out, I probably would have watched it and been like, heck yeah, I love fairies. What girl doesn't love fairies?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel like it could have been better. I think that
There
maybe
was
Disney,
potential. Hmm.
yeah, I think that Disney was just like, we don't know if we're gonna like put our whole back into this. So we're just gonna let it like take a little side seat. And then it didn't do very well. And they're like, see, but it's like, well, you didn't really back it either. So
Yeah, people didn't really know about it. And why, not try to capture some of the magic of the success of Frozen and sort of recent resurgence of Disney animation. Maybe this is probably their calculation. They didn't want people confusing this or conflating this with the general output of Disney animation. Pixar and their main studio, WDAS, were both kind of on a tear, commercially and critically. Yeah, Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph. Let's see, 2014. I think Moana had just come out. Am I?
2017, I think, for Moana.
Oh,
2017 or
Yeah, I think I would
2018.
say
Yeah.
oh,
I think my daughter was like 3
26.
or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was 2014? Oh, Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I guess rather than capitalize on Frozen's coattails, they probably just dumped it and hope nobody really noticed. Just so there wasn't any kind of brand contamination or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't want people to get it mixed up with their fairies.
Yeah,
Because they had all the
Perhaps.
various Tinkerbell
Yeah,
fairy
it was
movies,
giving
pirate
Pixie
fairies.
Hollow. It really
Yeah.
was. Yeah. Like
Like
some of
I
the,
was like,
yeah.
that's why I was like, well, I mean, I think had they pushed it better, like girls love
Mhm.
fairies, girls love magic.
Yeah, yeah. The
Like, come
Tinkerbell
on.
movies were pretty, like, I think it was like the 2010s or more so like the early 2000s when the Tinkerbell CGI movies became like a huge thing and like had so many sequels and stuff. And there's also like books and stuff that tie into. But yeah, there's so much that you can do with fairies. There was Pixie Hollow Online, etc. Like so
Well, they
much
had like a whole
potential.
Disney show.
Like,
Like there was so
yeah,
much
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
that I'm like, you
yeah.
could even like if you're like, oh, these aren't necessarily the fairies. And I mean, maybe that's why Disney was just like, don't associate it with our fairies. Those are different
Yeah. Did
fairies.
they ever say the word fairy? I'm trying to remember. No, I think they did, but like,
They
I mean, they could
did.
have even given them like a new name if that was like a concern. Like, you could call them like, I don't know, like they're creatives. They can come up with
Fae
something.
people. I mean,
Yeah,
because like, you had
yeah,
the
uh-huh.
Bog King, and like the Bog
Yeah.
King's not a fairy. He's like a
It's like a
bog
woodland entity.
monster. Yeah, like
Yeah.
woodland bug monster
Yeah.
thing. I don't know.
Eldritch something. Yeah.
Yeah.
the
So
fake.
like
Yeah,
they could have called him something, the Fae, the something. Because I
Yeah.
think in the beginning he's like, I hate fairies. So they
Yeah.
definitely called
Yeah.
him fairies.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean the movie was slammed by critics, but also Disney is not afraid to put out just kind of disposable slop. Like they're
Yeah.
straight to video, and I,
Straight to Disney Plus now. Yeah. Quite a few.
I mean this.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that they haven't pulled this from Disney Plus. Like it is.
Yeah, because it doesn't have a Blu-ray release. It's like there is no other archival way to watch this besides on their own platform. So that's also fascinating among all of this. Yeah.
I'm sure they were anticipating, poor reviews from critics. It's got like a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. So,
Oof.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't gonna expect much in terms of like a blockbuster success. But
Yeah. It was definitely ambitious. I felt like it was, I think, a lot of grand ideas smushed together in a way that maybe they didn't all work, but if you pursued each one of these maybe independently, there could be something really substantial and interesting there. Like I felt like with the jukebox element, it was giving like Moulin Rouge for kids. Like that's kind of what I felt, especially with all the love songs and everything. Like I was like, this is Moulin Rouge with like fairies for children, and it's like it's very sweet, and also like the Midsummer's Night aspect of like the love potion and everything. And I got some like Avatar a little bit, like from like the way the characters are designed, and just sometimes it kind of veered into the uncanny valley with the animation,
Yes.
but
It was
and
the
other times.
fairies.
Yeah, the fairies, I loved the fairy wings. Like there's so many, and also I think they also postured this as a film that was like Beauty and the Beast, but the beast gets to stay the beast. And I was like, that's an interesting concept. Like there was a lot of kind of like really like really fascinating nuggets of concepts that I think needed to
Oh,
just fully bake a little bit more, and maybe all of them maybe didn't work all together. But interesting nonetheless. But yeah.
it was kind of like Shrek.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I
She
got that
doesn't go with
too.
the Prince
Yeah.
Charming. She goes
Yeah.
with the ogre.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
yeah,
the
that's
guy was so yeah, he was very
I
Prince Charming.
hated
That was my
Roland.
first.
I
I was
hated
like
him.
immediately I saw him. I'm like, this guy is Hans, and they're not even being subtle about it. Like this is
Yeah.
so. I hate this guy.
The
Yeah,
worst. Yeah. Well, I was like, you know what? I also didn't like his voice because it was like a weird like
yeah,
country Elvis
yeah. He was
kind of
really
thing.
like he was doing an Elvis kind of accenty
Yeah.
idiolect. I don't know what to call it,
On
but
it
like
kind of
yeah,
like or like Johnny Bravo from like the
yeah,
old
like
Cartoon
hey
Network.
mama,
He was
yeah, yeah,
yeah. He was just like, "Hey girl, you like my
yeah,
hair?" And I was like, I hated him. I was
all
like,
about the
who
hair.
who voiced this man? Because I don't like him.
Yeah, I
Like
didn't recognize him, but I was like,
I
well,
didn't
he did a
either.
good job because I really did not like that character. Yeah.
Yeah, I was rooting for her and the Bog King. I was like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
such a meet cute. They
Yeah.
like they like the same things. They both hate love.
They
Oh,
bond
they're
over their
perfect.
hatreds. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, this is so cute. I was, yeah. They
Yeah.
get together and I was like, oh, good for them.
Yeah, and Bog King, like I don't know if y'all know the TikTok trend right now of a hear me out cake. Bog King could
Yes.
easily go on that. Yeah, I didn't see it at first, and I was like, wait a second, wait a second.
You
So
watch
like
it and you're like,
you're
okay,
like, I
I choose the Bog
understand
King.
why there's a huge Tumblr like this. I was looking into it because I am a fandom person by nature. I was like, what is the fandom like for this movie? So I searched Strange Magic onto Tumblr, and immediately fan fiction, fan art of mainly the Bog King, and I'm like, you incredible, slay. I love to see this. Like it's like people are very invested into their special interests, and that was the one for a lot of people for this movie. And I'm like, what? I'm glad he got his flowers at the very least because
Yeah, he's just a
cool
man bug.
character. Yeah,
Yeah, just a
yeah.
man bug looking for love. Well,
Right,
and
right.
I had never heard of this, but I actually saw a reel, and it was when Dawn has the love potion and she's like
Hmm.
talking to him through the gate. I literally just saw a reel recently, and I was like, oh, that's cute. I have no idea what this is from, but
Yeah.
okay. And I saw it on like Instagram, and then we watched it, and I was like,
Oh,
oh,
what a
this is what this
coincidence.
is
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
And yeah, some interesting mimetic moments. You could say, I mean, if this movie were successful enough to spawn that kind of thing, but there's a screenshot I'm gonna send to
Cool.
the Facebook chat right now, just a random moment from the film, a close up of Prince Roland, whatever. Yeah, a lot of Shrek vibes, especially like the
Yes.
Uncanny Valley. It's not as bad as like Robert Zemeckis, Mars Needs Moms or
Oh, yeah.
situation.
Well, and it was like weird. It wasn't a consistent Uncanny Valley because there was times I was
Right.
looking at them and I'm like, they look fine. But then there'd be other times that I'm like, why do they look so
They're just like
weird?
so stretched. Like, yeah, there were some
Yeah.
instances of that,
Like
but it
maybe it
was,
was like
yeah,
more the
not consistent.
close-ups. Like the
Yeah.
close-ups that I was like, this is weird. Why do they look weird?
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a rendering thing or what. Like, I'm trying to think of like where, so it's 2015. I don't know how long, like, I guess the visual development for this movie was, but like, so this is somewhere around like when they came out with like the Brave technology on the Pixar end and then Frozen stuff. And like, so like, it was there, but I guess not. And also, like, Lucasfilm was probably just trying to do their own thing, carve their own niche in animation space with fairy tale types things. But
Yeah, it's pretty top
yeah,
of the line. Like it's very sharp. It's clear. Like a lot of detail on the.
really pretty landscapes. I really liked that. That was probably my
Yeah.
favorite part of it. Like it just like I want to visit that world. It looks really like fun to explore. I love that the creatures were really interesting to me, like the little goblins, the
I like
little
the
imp
mushrooms.
guy, so
Yeah.
cute. Like I love the mushrooms, the gossiping mushrooms. Like
Yeah.
yeah, like really cool characters design aspects of it and also just world design that I just was like, oh, I want to see their art books and stuff like that and just see more of the like visual development of all of this.
Yeah, yeah. There's a visual development artist or a illustrator. I just Googled him. Let's see if Brian Froud. And of course, George Lucas had worked on things previously like Labyrinth. He was a producer
Mm,
on that. And I mean, similar aesthetic, with the Henson company,
right.
their approach to sort of realism for the first time with things like the Dark Crystal, and then
Yeah, the Gelfling. Yeah.
I think Brian Froud is also one of the yeah, the visual progenitors to that aesthetic, and it is kind of grotesque in a way, like the way he renders fantasy illustrations, like realistic, but there's a certain charm and beauty and just he also does beautiful characters, fairies. Yeah, that's one of his like fa collections. It's just called Fairies, spelled Faeries, by Brian Froud. So that I think that was an influence on this, and just the grotesque nature of the dark forest denizens, the trolls and goblins and that kind of thing. And they're all just so very, yeah, varied in their look, but most have kind of a general theme of just like small beady eyes and huge gaping mouths, and yeah, very similar to like what you'd see from the trolls in, or the goblin characters in Labyrinth.
Mm.
Yeah, the minions of the Goblin King, and then yeah, Bog King. He just goes by Bog King in this, I guess.
Or bog. Boggy woggy.
Boggy Woggy Kingy Wingy. Dawn was my favorite character.
Ah,
Honestly,
Dawn was
one of my
funny.
favorite. She
Yeah.
was so cute. I was like, I love her.
But yeah, David Bowie kind of archetype here,
Mm.
Bog King. Yeah, Jareth from Labyrinth. That was his.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean they're going for and I would hope this movie has like a cult following, because I think if you are able to get with like the really weird vibe and the jukebox musical, because I mean the conceit of this movie is George Lucas, he loves curating soundtracks for his films. And
Mm.
he describes, even with the movies of his that have original soundtracks, like Star Wars, his favorite part of it is the scoring process. You can just kind of sit back and let John Williams do his thing. But also, if you're making a film and you're able to use an existing library of music, as he did previously with like American Graffiti, you go through and pick out a playlist of bangers, and like that's just awesome to see your work on screen accompanied by some of your favorite art from artists you admire. And I mean, I've fantasized about that numerous times, of like the kinds of songs I would want to put in a movie. So I don't blame George Lucas for wanting to do this and put together like this playlist of songs uh, to include in this just little vanity project of his.
Yeah, and like the fact that a lot of them were mashups too. I wasn't expecting that at first, but I was like, that's a fun way to like get all these songs in there, but also like sometimes it felt overwhelming, and other times I was like, no, but like also I don't mind that they're bringing this back because it kind of reinforces it a little bit more. And also this, I it must have been around when Glee was probably ending, but like Glee was very did a lot of mashups like that, like I'm a survivor, I will survive, like that was just kind of a thing at the time. If you went to any show choir, like mashups between like two kind of random songs about a kind of similar-ish theme, maybe if they're from different eras or whatever, very popular at the time. So I understand why they were in this film, but it tickled me a lot. I was like, oh, we're going Glee with this. I'm here for the ride. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most
Yeah.
renditions are fairly truncated and
Hmm.
sometimes are included in medleys, so they don't like overstay their welcome a lot of the time. But yeah,
Yeah.
kind of random choices as well. And I wonder how familiar George Lucas was with some of the song choices, because it just seemed like the certain like random pop hits of the day.
Yeah, well, like the one, I think probably one of the ones I liked the least was when they're at the first dance and she sings
Mm.
Stronger by Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah, yeah, that
And
was
I don't
probably
remember what he was
yeah.
singing. He was singing something like,
He
"Oh,
was
forgive me" or
singing.
whatever. I can't remember
Yeah, he
exactly
was
what
like,
it
I'm on my
was, but
knees, like that one.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't like this mashup. And like, I get it. Like, I get why her song is that. I'm like, and I mean, I get why his, but I didn't think it went very well together.
Yeah, some of them
And that was
worked, some
probably
of
my
them
like my
didn't.
least favorite
Yeah.
one. But I
Hmm.
was glad that they had Strange Magic because like if you don't
You
have
have
Strange
to.
Magic and it's
You
called
have
this,
to.
I'm gonna riot.
And that
Like
was one of the
that's what I
more
want.
successful duets, I think, of the
Yes,
film, where it just
it
like
was
was a
cute.
moment. I was like, oh, I'm invested in this relationship. Like, this is adorable. Yeah.
So "Come On, Marianne" is the song that
Yeah.
the way I don't know, not about my most mentally clear state, maybe as I'm recording this, I don't know. So the way I enunciated that was kind of weird. So, take two. No, "Come On, Marianne" is a song, of course, by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and the reason why Marianne is thus named Marianne in this
I
film.
was wondering. I was like, did they pick the song first? They probably did. Yeah.
Um, but anyways, yeah. So there's decisions like that. It kind of it's a little ass backwards in the way some of these plot contrivances unfold, and it's also based on, or loosely adapted from A Midsummer Night's Dream, so some Shakespeare comparisons. Of course, that is like a high fantasy from Shakespeare. I don't know if there are other
Yeah.
examples from him, but that
Twelfth Night. Well, actually, let me think.
It's
There's a
funny.
few. Yeah.
I did an Elvis musical in high
That's
school,
another. Yeah.
called All Shook Up. And it was
Yeah.
Elvis musical set to Shakespeare's Twelfth Night set in the 50s.
Yeah, that's
And it was a
right.
lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that. So I was like, maybe they should have, I don't know, stuck with more consistent theming with their music, I think. Because
Yeah.
it was a bit all over the place. But yeah, that one was like my least favorite. Because I was like, because I didn't mind like the Elvis music. And I'm like, and if this guy's going to be like an Elvis-y character, I feel like they should have incorporated him singing Elvis more, maybe.
Yeah. 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 It
just
was
Because they
interesting.
had like Can't Help Falling in Love. That's Elvis. And so I was like,
Mhm.
you could have had more.
we talked
There could
about
have been
Mhm.
more.
Christian for a little bit. Yeah, to note on the vocal performances, like I mentioned Frozen, and that's a
Mm.
theme.
Yeah.
Thematically, I love anything related to the kinds of subjects brought up in that or the two Frozen films that we have now, and of course, a couple actors in this would go on to play fairly
Yeah.
significant roles in Frozen.
Yeah.
Rachel Wood and Alfred Molina, King Agnar and Queen Iduna from Frozen 2. So
Yeah. As father and daughter, I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah.
Alan Cumming is not in a Frozen film yet, but I
Though
think
he could be,
yeah,
One day.
Yeah, he has the vibe for it.
exactly. He'll be for sure in Frozen 3. I think I can put money down.
Well, I like recognized him right away because I really like Cabaret and he was in
Same.
Cabaret. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
is that Alan Cumming? So I was like looking it
Also,
up.
yeah, the 1999 Annie Disney film had Alan Cumming and Kristen Chenoweth. So really fun little like reunion for them as Rooster and Lily St. Regis. Like, yeah.
I didn't know. Like, honestly, I feel like I've only watched the original. All the other ones that have come out, I'm like, meh.
Yeah, that one is great because it has Audra McDonald, so I do recommend that one, and also all the other cast that I mentioned, like yeah, Kathy Bates I think is Miss Hannigan in that one too, but yeah,
Oh, interesting. I don't know. Carol Channing is my favorite. So,
oh yeah, she's yeah untouchable, absolutely.
Yes, well, yeah, I haven't imbibed at all. I'm just on low sleep, by the way, just a production note here. Let's see.
there's also Maya Rudolph. She was in it.
Oh yeah, she was the mom.
She was the
That was his
mom.
mom. Yeah, she was great. She was a hoot. She was really trying to set him up, and just yeah,
I like
didn't
there's like a
recognize her till
revolving. It was like a revolving
yeah.
door of women,
Yeah, creatures and things. Yeah.
women creatures. Well, I recognized her voice because she sounded a lot like her character in Hotel Transylvania.
Oh, yeah.
She sounded very similar, and I was like, so of course I'm like pulling up my phone. I'm like, gotta see who all these people are because I
Yeah.
recognize their voices too much.
Mhm.
One of the pivotal characters is Sonny, voiced by Elijah Kelly.
Yeah, Seaweed from Hairspray. Yeah, love him. Yeah.
Yeah, it revolves one of the main pulls from Midsummer Night's Dream is this plot involving a love potion, and there are two characters who seek to utilize a love potion for their own ends, and I guess the person who instigates that ultimately was Prince Roland, who wants to win back. Yeah, he's a scumbag who Marianne catches cheating. I mean, she's happy enough with the thought of spending her life with him at the beginning, like they're getting ready for their wedding. But then he just kind of abruptly catches him making out with this other fairy, and I don't know, it's very kind of
The
ham-fisted.
scandal.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
scandal.
yeah. And then she pulls a Reputation era, goes completely 180 on her personality. Like
Well,
at the beginning, she was giving me like Anna vibes. I was like, oh, is this the type of character that we're gonna get? Second half, most of the movie, she gives me more kind of Elsa vibes. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting kind of flippity doodah here, but yeah,
She's jaded at that point.
yeah. She's like, I'm through with love. Yeah.
Well, The thing that killed me is that she didn't tell any of the other characters like what actually happened. And so
Yeah,
everyone's like, oh,
yeah.
why won't you just forgive him and marry him? And I'm like, maybe if you just said that he was making out with another girl, they'd stop trying to force you to marry
Yeah, the
him.
dad was really like on her case. Like, you was like, you gotta give him a chance. Like, this Roland guy is great. Like, just tell him what happened. Like, it's so
You
simple
make this so easy.
conversation. Like, yeah, but I do appreciate that at the very least she didn't like blame the other girl and was like, no, this guy is an asshole. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was,
This
yeah,
guy, this guy stinks.
yeah.
Like basically. Well, I thought it was funny that the dad couldn't fly for very long because he was too weak. And I was like,
Oh,
that's funny
yeah.
because he's old. He's like old and bigger, so he's like, man, I can't fly anymore. I need people to fly me. Oh, and it was Carol Burnett was
Oh, Carolina. Yeah,
what's
yeah,
her
yeah,
face?
yeah.
Carol
Miss
Burnett. I said
Hannigan.
Carol
Yeah,
Channing.
yeah. And
Well,
I
Carol
went
Channing
with
was
it
in
too, but
Thumbelina.
I had the
I
image
was
of
like,
Carol Burnett in my head, and then
yeah, I
no,
said Carol
you're
Channing, and I
good.
was like, that's not her. So I
Yeah.
had to like think about that. But no, she was in Thumbelina, which I also watched
Oh,
recently. So
yeah.
if we ever want to cover Thumbelina,
More
I
fairies,
will.
absolutely. Yeah. This also gave me, I even wrote in my notes, there was a part that was very Let Me Be Your Wings, like the with strange magic. I was like, this is
Yeah.
really giving me Let Me Be Your Wings. Yeah.
I mean, we got bog things,
Yeah. Yeah.
girl who
Yeah.
may be fairy, other fairies, who knows?
A princessy type thing. Yeah. Yeah. It
Um,
also was giving me a little bit of like Barbie movies from like the 2000s.
Yeah.
That was the other kind of thing, especially with like I feel like Alan Cumming has been in one of those. I need to fact check that. But
Um, I
like
think it was, I know
Martin
Martin
Short has.
Short
Yeah.
was one of the
Uh-huh. And
bad
Tim
guys in
Curry
one of
as
them.
well.
Yes.
Yeah. So like the kind of a similar vibe where I was like, "Oh yeah, like I could see this being in the pantheon of the Barbie fairy movies as well." And those I not for nothing. I love those
I know,
films. Like I eat those
classics.
up. They're the Barbie cinematic universe is storied history in my life and I appreciate it a lot. But like, yeah, it did give me those vibes too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my friends and I have Barbie movie nights, so I feel you.
Yeah. Amazing.
yeah, Kristen Chenoweth was in the Tinkerbell movies, I guess.
Yeah, Rosetta.
hmm
The dark forest borders the fairy kingdom, and the dark forest is where primroses are grown, and they're the key ingredient in love potions. There's an opening narration from George Lucas. No, Alfred Molina voices the king, who's modeled after George Lucas.
Yeah, he did look like him. I clocked that immediately. I was like, there's
Yeah,
a little bit of grays here. Yeah.
self-inserts.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess she was also in Rio. I
Okay.
didn't know she was in
Oh,
Rio.
Or
maybe.
But I know she's in Descendants now. But I
Yeah.
always just think of the ones that she's like actually in as a person.
Yeah. And Annie. Yeah, that was the other. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of other.
covered,
And Glee. She was in Glee. April. Yeah.
Yes.
hmm
Yeah, she did Fire. She did the Fire. That's my favorite song that she did on the show was Fire with
Oh, that's
Schuster.
good. I loved this house. A House is Not a Home. That whole mashup. So good.
if we hadn't done Enchanted previously, we would do that for
Oh,
Exactly. I
Wicked.
thought
that's in
about
like my
that.
top five favorites of all time. Yeah.
Oh, we do have Rent. She was Maureen in Rent. Idina Menzel, which I
hmm
didn't realize until later. I was like, oh, hey, that's
Yeah.
what's her face from
I
prison.
yeah,
Yeah.
I selfishly wanted Gems just because that movie's badass, and to not just overindulge in
Well, I
chick.
haven't seen it, so I'm down for that.
I don't know. I guess Rent isn't totally a chick flick, but it's a full-on music.
That's a musical about
Oh,
AIDS
it is. Yeah, that
and
is.
poverty.
Mhm.
That's a deep one. That's
It
a
is a
deep one.
classic for the theater girlies and theater
It is.
everybody's,
It is.
everybody's. Yeah.
We'll cover
Yeah,
this.
I have Take Me As I Am on my playlist. So I'm here for it.
Take me, baby. Yeah, that's a good one.
Let's see. Yeah, the Uncut Gems is a very Thoughtcast type of
Mm.
movie. It's like yeah, you need therapy after seeing that film.
That's Josh Safdie, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the Safdie brothers or something. Yeah.
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 I
Um,
just like Adam Sandler in The Mob, maybe?
yeah, so,
In Crime, maybe?
he's sort
I
of
know vague things about it.
organized crime adjacent. Yeah, there's gambling.
Mhm.
It is.
Ah,
Yeah, it is a drug. It's sort of a cocaine vendor in the form of
Yeah.
as
fascinating.
a sort of you and I, Bridget, have kind of the ADHD brain, and so I think we would appreciate or we appreciate these kinds of cathartic films in a way. I feel.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I love chaos.
yeah.
Fun
Chaos is
chaos.
great. Chaos, I'm here for it. Yeah.
What is the movie? Oh gosh, the movie with Johnny Depp. Something in Las Vegas.
Uh,
Oh.
I,
Is it kind of like that? Because that's like a whole like drug bender
leaving Las
movie where it's
Vegas.
like chaos.
Probably. I haven't seen that. Yeah,
You haven't seen it? It's a classic. You have to see it.
Leaving Las Vegas is Nicolas
Oh.
Cage, and yeah, Nicolas Cage did an Elvis impression. He's maybe done multiple Elvis impressions throughout his career.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard them. Yeah.
Yeah, Wild
Fear and Loathing. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Mm.
Heart is. Um,
But it's a chaos movie.
but
It's
yeah,
chaotic.
movie Wild at Hearts with yeah, Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. He's doing it like a major Elvis impression, and that's kind of where I think Roland, this actor, his name is Sam Palladio. Voice.
Ah, yeah.
He's kind
I
of
didn't really recognize him. I didn't look through his movies, but I was like, I don't this voice is not this is not someone I recognize.
probably more known as a stage actor. I wouldn't be surprised.
Hmm.
A lot of times with musicals, you cast Broadway types. But yeah, I haven't done any research on him really. But he's done stuff, and like the girl who voices Dawn, the sister, she really I don't think has done a whole lot, unfortunately. I guess I wonder what's keeping her busy, but not a ton of credits. And she was really young when she did Dawn, this film, this role in Strange Magic was sort of her being discovered by George Lucas. And I know she mentioned like being associated with a project for like 4 years leading up to its
Oh,
release
wow.
because
Oh, she did Pinkalicious.
Oh,
She's
okay.
a Pinkalicious.
Yeah.
Maybe she just did like voice stuff and then was like, okay, I'm done.
Possibly,
That's it.
yeah. And that's fun. I do appreciate when voice actors are really like in their lane as voice people and like especially when they get to do like big projects and as much as I love obviously like recognizable names and celebrities and stuff, I there's such a it's kind of like a lost art now of like
Yes.
voiceover talent that do films like big films and stuff like that. Like and yeah, they usually would kind of pull people from Broadway from that, but also there's people that have carved their own niche as like being
Yeah, like
a
Jodie
movie voice.
Benson,
Yeah,
Paige
yeah, yeah. All
O'Hara,
the
like all
early,
those.
yeah, the Disney
Now
girls and stuff.
they're all like, oh, we have this huge name behind it. Oh, we got The
Yeah,
Rock in it. And I'm like, yeah, but like
yeah. They're
give
trying to
the voice
recreate the Robin
actors.
Williams of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, give the voice actors a chance. They
Mhm.
want money too.
Right.
this Meredith Anvil, maybe she does a bunch of stage stuff, but like 4 years, she mentioned in an interview that I saw, like that's a pretty normal amount of time for an animated production in terms of turnaround. And then this movie probably saw a little bit of delays with the Lucasfilm acquisition. One thing that might have played a factor is that Lucas's personal relationship with Disney was
Mm.
fairly soured at this point because he had been ejected from the Star Wars sequel trilogy. They were going to leave him on those projects as a consultant, but they eventually kind of dropped that relationship when it became clear that his vision for, whatever, plot and character developments they were going to include in the sequels just did not align kind of whatsoever with his ideas. So yeah, he was sort of fired in a way, or they just said they weren't interested in his scripts or his I guess notes for episode 7, and so maybe because of that they just didn't want to work with him on the rollout of Strange Magic, which he would have probably wanted to have a fair amount of input on, since this movie is basically his baby. Um, or he conceived the whole idea of the jukebox musical and telling a fairy tale for his daughters, and he's not credited as much other than producer and story credit for the original idea. Like screenplay is all other screenwriters, but I'm sure his DNA is very much a part of this film, perhaps more so than any creative force behind it. Directed by Gary Rydstrom, who is known as primarily a prominent sound engineer, sound designer.
Right, yeah.
But just
Yeah, I saw he did like Jurassic Park and stuff.
yeah, a very senior person at Lucasfilm, which is probably why he was given the role of director, and then he also has a screenwriter credit on this as well. So,
I think he also did the Toy Story like vacation special. I want to say like that was what his only like animation credits that are out there that I was
yeah,
able to find. But yeah,
wanted to get more into, I think, developing stories and not just the sound department for these films and projects. So I'm glad that he got to kind of do more stuff like that. But sort of an unenviable position, I think, to be lead of a film like this when really it was George Lucas, kind of pulling all the strings. And then, yeah, when it came down to actually marketing it and releasing it, Disney just they were kind of probably tired of dealing too much with George himself. And the whole Lucasfilm thing was just they had Star Wars coming up later in the year. They probably didn't want people's most recent memory of Lucasfilm and a Disney collaboration with Lucasfilm to be this film that would ultimately garner 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was just a very offbeat kind of passion project.
So why were the reviews so bad? Like, what did people say? I haven't looked at any reviews. I don't know if you read any.
Well, my impression of the film when I first saw it feels kind of awkward. Like the animation is just not 100% there. It has its moments. Like there's a general tenor of humanity woven throughout the film that I appreciate. Like these characters don't, as much as they are kind of pigeonholed into these archetypes and tropes, especially having to, have a lot of their plot progression delivered through pre-existing music,
yeah.
still are capable of embodying a certain sense of personality, but perhaps not enough to really solidify this as a commercial or a critical success, in terms and a success in terms of just like being an absolute must see. It's obviously just kind of not fully baked, I think, and even there are signs of them having to cut corners. And one example is like the hairstyles on the
Mm.
the
They
pixie
don't
dude.
move at
Pixie
all.
cuts for the pixies, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to have long, kind of flowing hair for some of the characters, but just for budget reasons, they had to give them kind of the close cropped look. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of stiff, like the characters from like the Clone Wars cartoon.
Yeah, I definitely got that vibe too. Hmm.
Probably some of the same artists who worked
Could be, yeah.
with this. So. Yeah, I don't want to belabor this film too much longer, but I have a soft spot for it because I love Star Wars and I love the works of George Lucas. I still haven't seen American Graffiti, which I'm kind of
Mm.
holding out for a time when I'm really in the mood, but I'm sure I'll love it when I see it. I've seen THX 1138, George Lucas's first feature, and that was really good. But Star Wars, I'm all gung ho for Star Wars. And I don't know. There's a certain, I guess, yeah, DNA woven throughout. George Lucas he has a very particular vibe as an artist. He has a very established worldview and aesthetic, and like his one of his closest colleagues, Francis Ford Coppola, recently had a film out for the first time in a long time, and it's like these are some kind of quirky dudes from the hippie era, and I love the throwback in certain moments in Strange Magic to that era. The kaleidoscope ending. I thought that
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, trippy. It was very cool.
yeah, the yin yang kind of symbol, and the sitar music during the Christian Chenoweth sequences. I don't know. It was kind of they maybe should have gotten like an Indian character to play that role or something. If the Sugar Plum Fairy is actually secretly, she's a Hindu deity for some reason.
Yeah, I was so curious by the fact
Yeah.
that they call her the Sugar Plum Fairy because I grew up doing ballet. I did Nutcracker every single year, and that's obviously a major character in that lore. And I was like, does this tie into the Nutcracker lore, or is this just like also a Sugar Plum player? Like, I was so And also, I was like thinking about the Barbie of it all with Barbie Nutcracker. I was just like, my brain was just like racing, trying to like, was like, is there a connection here, or is she just being called this because that is a prominent fairy in
Yeah.
stories about fairies? I don't know. So like that surprised me, where I was like, oh, she's playing the Sugar Plum Fairy. Interest? Is she gonna dance? Like, is she gonna do some holiday magic? Like, what's going on here? Yeah,
Well, I feel like they did it like just for a title
yeah, yeah.
because, well, and she wasn't a fairy,
Not
like
really.
not the
Yeah.
traditional fairy. Like she was
Also,
kind of
yeah.
like more like a imp, honestly, because
Yeah. And
she
she,
didn't have
yeah.
wings, didn't have legs. Like I thought that
She's
she
like
was
a
gonna get out of the
spirit.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I was like, is she dead? Because
She's
I thought she was gonna get out
Yeah.
and like be a fairy. It's like maybe her spirit's trapped. But then she came out and I was
Yeah.
like,
But she was
what?
still like that. Yeah. It
Yeah.
also reminds me, and how I just remembered in the Shrek musical, they have a Sugar Plum Fairy as well, who also doubles as Gingy. Like they go together. So I was like another random Shrek connection. But yeah, I know that was interesting to me. I was like, well, okay, yeah,
And she doesn't need legs. She can do what she wants. She's a sugar
yeah.
plum fairy.
It's kind of like a genie. Yeah,
I do. So you mentioned the kaleidoscope, Philip, and I liked that part.
yeah.
But again, it kind of felt out of place
It
because
was
they
so
didn't do
random.
that the rest of the movie. I wish they would have had like more like little trippy fun things
Yeah.
pop up
Yeah, lean
within the
into it.
movie.
I love stuff like that. Like Alice in Wonderland is one of my faves, and I love just how it leans into kind of the trippiness of like the nonsense and stuff like that. And so like if they did a little bit more of that and played around with like, because it's animation, you can do so many crazy things with like animated like cinematography in an animation sense of like the creative ways to shoot a scene, etc. But like yeah, so like if they did more of that, I would be very here for it. But yeah, we had a little glimmer of it kind of towards the end. Yeah.
spot on. Yeah, the randomness of it. It just doesn't cohere very well. So it makes sense critics would not be on board, and focus groups, I'm sure, um, were probably similarly cool on it. And yeah, the randomness. If they had just dialed it up a bit, that may have made a
Yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah, it was like a lot of ideas, but
yeah
not quite all done well.
yeah
Because I liked the fight scene, but then you could tell where they
Mhm.
kind of cut corners in the fight scene because it's like, oh, they do like the spinning motion and they're doing
Yeah.
another pose and
yeah
then doing the thing and then another pose. And I was like,
Yeah.
this
And
seems
there's
like they ran out of
yeah.
time or something or
And so many
money.
character dynamics. Like I could tell they were trying to go for like a sister thing, and I don't know again if that was Frozen inspired or they just wanted to do that. But like it was so like kind of quick, like just like these kind of glimmers of like character growth and things, and like with the dad as well. Like it was just everything was just very like you could tell like if you gave it more time to kind of develop and simmer, maybe something could have like stuck a little bit more, but it just things didn't really stick as much. I think that was, and there was not a lot of like consistency. But like I think a lot of moments of this out of context are like very fun to look back on as well. Like it's just so like it yeah, it there are moments and I appreciate it for what it is. But yeah, altogether it's just kind of it's a lot to take in. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, they
The
also fell like
go
the Bog King and Marianne fell in love after like a day.
Yeah.
Like you can't marry a man you just met. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Not if it's true love. And it might be in this case, yeah. Oh,
he's powerful. They're both royalties. Like I guess things are kind of expedited when you're heavy hitters.
You're I
Paul,
guess they could get married and then they can just like everyone gets along now because
yeah,
the
the
two
the
kingdoms
world
came
is
together.
together. There's no more division and primrose, etc. Yeah.
isn't this the setup for the Maleficent film too?
Oh yeah. Now that I think about it, because yeah, very similar concept. And then what year would have that been? Around like 2012, I think, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, it's a yeah. This movie's full, and if they wanted to really try harder to kind of yeah refine the end product and put some effort into marketing it, they might have had some success. This movie just had zero success upon release, and that was probably just it was fine for Disney. It was a write off. They were living large at the time, just in their film department generally because their other animated features were hitting at the time. Yeah, Maleficent was 2014 as well, and that was a
Hmm.
huge success. So it's like
Yeah.
this just worked for them as a tax write-off, and I'm sure they were happy with that. And then now it's on Disney Plus, for anyone to
Yeah.
see.
In another world, there would have been merch and theme park tie-in type stuff. Who knows what could have happened? But
I mean,
yeah.
go on to have another life. I mean, there, I'm sure are so many people who would just be so over the moon for some late run merch, pins or Funko Pops. But this is just
Yeah.
so niche. Who knows if anything like, the Hot Toys figurines sometimes come out for
Mm.
like some of these more niche things, but this even is perhaps too obscure for
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to get something less obscure, probably.
again.
Yeah.
I don't even
Custom
know.
made. Yeah.
Lucas of it all, though, I feel like this is like a historically significant object because of people like George Lucas, Robert Zemeckis. He just had a movie come out, like Philip Francis Ford Coppola. Like people should notice when these directors, are making work because they've often gone through spells where they haven't been overly productive and like in terms of their overall contribution to the medium, it's just noteworthy whenever they have a project kind of enter the zeitgeist, no matter how you spin it. But I guess in this case, if you would really only notice if you are following and are a fan of Lucasfilm, and I'm just that kind of nerd person.
I wonder if they would make any more, but or if it's kind of a done deal for them after this, like with like original things outside of, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, because this was the first one for them, but I prognosis looks kind of bleak on that, but yeah.
They shut down like there was a
Yeah.
Singapore branch of Industrial Light and Magic, the animation studio over there that I think is no longer active. So it's kind of unfortunate that got
Dang.
shut down. Yeah, but yeah, so
I guess I looked up merch. You can only find
Oh.
stuff that's like fan made on like Redbubble, but there
Aw.
is stuff out there. There's like a tiny
But you know
cult
where to look.
following, and
Yeah.
the artists are like, we're gonna give it to you.
Yeah. You just go on Tumblr and write the Bog King. There's so much fan art and yeah.
I'm not
It's
surprised.
very fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like Redbubble. We get
Yeah.
stickers in there a lot, and I'm like, yeah, if
Oh,
you are
yeah.
looking for anything that you cannot find, you'll find it on Redbubble most likely.
Yeah. Hmm. And Etsy. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna rush out. It's not that this isn't the sentimental value for this. I mean, there's a little bit there, but not not nearly enough. I need to get back into Frozen. I mean,
Mm.
the waifu factor for like Marianne Dawn is too young. That was
Yeah.
She's just cute.
but how old is Sunny supposed to be?
Sunny? I
He's
have
like
no
he could be like
clue.
30. I don't know.
Sunny was
He's an
giving me
elf.
he was giving me Bach vibes as well, like the Wicked of it all. I was like, oh, this is so Bach coded. Yeah. But
He's
he actually gets the girl in this time. Yeah, yeah. But yeah.
sort of the well, the Midsummer Night's Dream parallels, like
Mm, yeah.
what's his name, Goodfellow or whatever. This is the fairy who spreads the magic potion, and then Nick Bottom is the one who turns to the donkey, right?
Yep. Puck and all of them. Yeah. Hmm.
That's sort of like, yeah, the Sunny character is probably like the Nick Bottom, or is Puck also a name for the donkey guy, or Puck is,
He's the fairy. Yeah.
but he also has another name. It's weird. It's confusing.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know that he was giving me, Sunny just had general donkey vibes, like from Shrek in general.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I believe I'm trying to think who has Elijah. Elijah Kelly he's been in a lot of like theatery stuff. I know he did Hairspray. I want to say he did The Wiz Live as Scarecrow. So like he's got like a theatery background. I'm trying to where was I going with this? I thought he had done a production of I don't think he did Shrek, but I don't know who did that originally because I know Shrek has been a musical too, but I'm trying to remember who played Donkey in that. But
the
yeah.
the king got a big laugh from me, of course, the moment like gives a little speech at the end about the importance of tolerance and harmony.
Yeah.
Then he sees Sonny and Dawn together. They've fallen in love.
Yeah.
He just faints.
He's over it. He's like, oh boy.
I know. Well, he fainted, and I was like, "Oh no, oh no, where are we
Yeah.
going with this?" And
There
then
we
he like
go.
wakes up and he sees her with the bog king, and he's like, "Oh no!" I was like, "Oh no, what are you gonna do?" He didn't do anything, thankfully. I was like, "What's
Nah,
gonna
nah.
happen?"
He
Yep.
needs a second to,
Maybe
yeah.
he just doesn't like his little girls moving on. That's what I'm gonna tell
I
myself.
wonder what his backstory is. Like, what happened in his life? Where is
Where's
the
your queen?
mother? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, like I was curious. I'm like, hmm.
She left him for a window installer back in the 80s.
Well, it's a Disney movie. They don't need a
Yeah,
mom.
yeah. Or I mean, in Star Wars as well. Yeah,
And yeah, I mentioned well, yeah, my on-screen crushes on like Elsa and Anna, are just so much more beyond what this film could accomplish with its even though there's a certain appeal to I think the characters here that is we touched on the uncanny valley. It certainly doesn't go as far into like the Robert Zemeckis mocap territory or like
scary.
kind of
Yeah,
early Shrek and stuff too is kind of like they're trying to make it a little more realistic, but it works in Shrek. I think that's kind of intentional because they're trying to be irreverent and like kind of grotesque in a way.
Yeah, they're like comical.
Yeah, yeah, this kind of comically, yeah, offbeat, but yeah, I don't know. Marianne just seemed a little, I don't know, emaciated looking for me. Everyone complains like these characters look like aliens. The eyes are so big, and yeah, the proportions are so off. But yeah, just I don't think you're necessarily gonna want pinups of these characters anytime soon. Although I do really like the wing designs on the
yeah. The butterfly, like
Yeah,
really,
they're
really
really
pretty.
pretty.
I loved that. Yeah. Like if they made dolls of that, like how stunning would that be? Like, yeah,
yeah, great designs on sort of the textures and the costumes and yeah, like the fairy aesthetics, the wings, things like that.
I
Uh,
like the Bog King's design.
yeah,
yeah,
Maybe it's because he wasn't meant to look human, and that's why he looked fine. That's why I feel like they fell kind of short. It was just the fairies, they tried to make them look like humans, and they just looked kind of
yeah.
weird at
He
times.
was
But the
also
Bog King I
like,
liked.
yeah, because he had this kind of Jack Skellington thing about
I was
him.
gonna say he also
Like,
kind of reminded me of like Jack Frost,
yeah,
the
that too.
angular stuff. I was like, hmm.
Yeah.
I was like, I like him. He's my favorite.
yeah. Just seeing the animation of this reminded me how much I really want to get back to seeing some of the Disney animated films from this era because it's been a while.
Oh yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen either of the Frozen films, so I need to.
Mm.
I'm excited to revisit those sometime soon. Of course, we got Moana too
Hmm.
coming up.
Very soon, yeah.
I don't know. I have like 500 Elsa parties in the next 2 months. I'm kind of frozen
That's
out, I
real.
think.
I know that life.
I
Yeah.
just had a party and the girl wanted love is an open door. And do you want to
Oh,
build a snowman? And I was like, thank you.
okay.
My
Rare
little
choices. Yeah.
child.
You get
Oh, when
to,
they want,
yeah.
yeah, or they're like, oh, can I get lost in the woods or in summer? And I'm like, ah,
Based. I love
yes,
that.
you can have
Yeah.
everything. You don't want
Like
me to
this
sing
will all
Let
make
It
sense when I'm
Go?
older. Like, yeah, bring out
Yeah.
the relatively obscure, like the times where I'm Anna and I want to sing like I've seen dark before, and I'm like, this is not going to work for a party. But
They
like
don't want
these,
it. They don't want it.
there's a lot of unsung tunes in Frozen that I wish got their time in the sun a little bit more. Even though I love, I mean, the ones that do get their time in the sun more,
Yeah.
but yeah, no,
That's
I know
why
that life. Yeah,
I always I let them choose. Like
Mhm.
even when I'm Belle, because Belle
Yeah,
doesn't have an actual song.
true.
I'm
Yeah.
like I have all the songs. What
I
do
know
you
all of
want?
my friends' songs. Yes,
I've
of
done Into
course.
the Unknown, part of your world as Belle, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll do whatever you want, little
Yeah.
child.
I would say in my top five Frozen songs are
Mm.
two of those from the Christmas special.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Love the Christmas special.
together and Ring in the Season are just
Mhm.
absolute bangers in my book.
So good. And there's a new parade now that has those songs, I think some of them, and the new costumes and stuff they just unveiled at Disney World. Very adorable. Yeah.
Well,
I haven't seen those yet.
Moana was the recommended film after this.
I got that as well. Yeah.
Like, oh man, this looks so good compared to,
Yeah. Yeah.
Strange Mag is competently, rendered. It just doesn't have the same, and that just comes from the tradition of, the decades long legacy of century now, a long legacy of the animation company. And of course, there were a couple stingers. Did you see the stingers?
Hmm.
Uh,
Post credits. Yeah. There were a couple.
Yes.
I mean, where he's making out with the bug roll.
That was so weird.
I was
I was like,
oh,
what is happening right now?
like, all right, sure, we're going there.
I was impressed that they, were willing to pull that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was one last mushroom gossip telephone game happening at the very end. Tea blend.
Oh, I think I missed the mushroom one. Because
Oh,
so
yeah.
my 5-year-old actually like came in like maybe a third of the way into the movie and watched the whole movie, the rest of the movie with
Oh.
me. And he doesn't watch movies very often. And so
Yeah, how did he like it? Yeah.
he liked it. He was like, I like fairies. He
Oh,
was like, I like that
cool.
weird bug guy too. And I was like, nice.
Yeah,
I'm like, we love a good story. We love a good love story, okay? In this
absolutely.
household. But I missed the mushroom one.
It should have a much greater cringe factor than it does, honestly. The fact that I like it as much as I do is honestly
Yeah. Honestly quite charming for what it was. Like there are so many
Yeah.
elements of this. I think my favorite characters, weirdly enough, are like the two little goblins that are like the henchmen to the Bog King. One of them's name was like Thang. My favorite character in the whole thing. Just was so I was cracking up so many times
One
with
of them
those
is a
two.
hench lady.
Yes,
One of them was a
yes,
hench.
that's right. Yeah.
He was like, you're a lady? And he was like, you
And
can't
they were just
tell?
like, "Are you wearing cologne, perfume?" Like it was just very cute. I loved those
Yeah.
little, yeah, so adorable.
their names are literally Stuff and Thang.
Amazing. Amazing.
But
I also liked the imp. That was like a
Yeah,
rabbit possum
it
yeah,
reminded me of Momo from like Avatar.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
got that vibe. I feel like there's also been another little character that kind of looked like that in a movie, but I can't place it.
Mhm.
But I wish that they would have kind of fleshed out why it was making everything fall in love, but maybe it's just because
I
it's an
think that
imp and
was the
that's what they
Puck.
do.
Like, yeah, that
Yeah,
was
they
kind
just
of the
crave
Puck-like
chaos.
character. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I was like, what is happening here? And then they're like, oh, we got it back. We don't care about
Yeah.
the possum anymore.
I'm like,
Bye.
I
And I
wanted
was
to
like,
know the lore. Like, yeah,
yeah,
get
give me
into
some
it.
more
Like
details.
when the Sugar Plum Fairy was like, that fateful day, which I can never talk about, and then she finally talks about it, and it's like a 1 minute explanation. I thought we were gonna get a whole like diatribe there. I was ready for it, but it was just literally like, yeah, it didn't work. That's it. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
she was in love with
okay.
someone else. They only did that so at the end it made sense why what's her face did not fall in love
Yeah.
with Roland.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, I get it, but it was like, here's some like exposition real quick, just
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
guys know
yeah.
what's happening.
Hmm.
So I was like, and I still want to know why she shouldn't have feet. I'm still a
yeah,
little peeved about that for no reason.
I liked her song. Chris.
Yeah.
I did too.
I love a soprano, especially Kristen.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, I'm a Glinda girly. I mean, I love Elphaba as well. I love them both, but as the role that I probably would play in Wicked if I ever got the chance would be Glinda. So I
yeah.
always appreciate a soprano moment, and she was taking those notes, and I'd love to hear it whenever she gets the chance. So
Yeah,
yeah.
anytime she actually gets to like use those like opera pipes, I'm like, yes, girl,
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. Always here
I'm
for
here
as
for
an
it.
opera girly,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
gives me life. Yeah.
A theory about the plot is, Brolin. I mean, obviously, he's a baddie kind of from the start. There's not a lot of. I watched
A lot of redeeming elements to that man. Yeah.
watched recently where there's another.
Just good hair.
What's that?
Oh, I said it was just good hair. That's the only good part about
That's
him, I
it.
guess.
Yeah, character who has like an obviously telegraphed heel turn, but to the point where like it doesn't happen late in the film, so you kind of forgive the fact that he's obviously kind of a coded villain from the start because you find it's not held off as like a spoiler or anything.
Yeah.
But still, like he does kind of have a point. I think he wants, like, he's ambitious. He wants an army, and I mean, if he wants to invade the dark forest and like take out the Bog King, I kind of understand because like the Bog King is just holding the Sugar Plum Fairy hostage, and like, does he have a right to do that? She
Mm,
capable of making the I don't think she's in any trouble within the fairy kingdom. So it's like they should maybe mount a campaign to try to go rescue her because she's just kind of hanging out there as a prisoner of the dark forest, and it's kind of not not a very nice thing for the Bog King to just be. I guess he's vindictive because the
mm.
time she attempted to make a potion for him, it didn't work because I guess his the love interest was already in love with someone else, and we never see this character other than in this fantasy
Vision.
flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what happened to her lover? Like, did he do something despicable to?
He
No
cast them out.
idea.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, if you think about it, Roland really was Hans. He just didn't have
Yeah.
the big reveal. He was just evil
And
from the beginning.
he was very straightforward. He's like, I want an army. Like he was not hiding it in any way. So like
Yeah.
in that respect, I'm like, I get it, like
Yeah.
you're not really trying to, besides the cheating thing. Like that's
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, at least he
But
wasn't trying to kill her. It could be
right?
worse.
It could be
It
it always
could
could
be
be
worse.
worse. Unfortunately, it could always be worse.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to murder her, so like a step above Hans at least. There's
Right,
that.
right.
He's just who he is.
Yeah, and he's very unashamed in that. And I'm like, well, fair enough, I guess. But yeah.
I mean, I saw Transformers 1 recently, which had,
Ah.
but that character was very nuanced. I thought the character who starts out and would later become Megatron,
Mm.
but is originally just great pals with Optimus Prime as they're working as like these slave bot, these minor bots on Cybertron, and like he maybe was a little hot headed, but I thought that was actually a very effective sort of villain progression plot, and not super abrupt or anything, just kind of like you understand the motives behind this character. Very effectively done for like a kid's animated film, I thought. Here Roland, he's just vain. He's Prince Charming from Shrek. You kind of get his whole deal. So yeah, I thought it was effective as much as it was kind of just like he's kind of an obnoxious character to begin with. All right. Well, I don't know. Any other thoughts that we want to hit on before we sign off? Um,
I
I
don't think so.
I feel
I
like
mean, it
we
was
got
cute.
through
I did
everything,
like
yeah.
it. I did like the movie. And there were parts that, I laughed at. I was like, I LOL'd a couple
Oh,
times.
yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
I was like, it was very cute. Like the jokes landed. I just think maybe it just like got rushed or just didn't get the attention it needed to really round it out and make it like a better movie, I suppose. But I liked it.
Maybe.
I thought it was cute. I was rooting for the Bog King at the end. I liked
Same.
Boggy Woggy. Okay.
Yeah,
My favorite.
unashamedly. Like I was like, great character. I would love to see more, but also like I understand why we aren't.
Yeah.
Like,
Give us a prequel.
like
Give us a prequel.
yeah, Bog King origin story. Hello? That'd be
Lucas,
great. Yeah.
get him on the phone.
Come on,
We
George.
need a prequel.
honestly,
Yeah.
you said your kids were able to appreciate this as well. So
Yeah, Oliver liked it, and he's
Oh,
really
good.
hard to get to sit down and watch
Wow.
movies
Does he like
for a long
musicals or
term. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Like movie, he's more of a show kid right now. But we
okay.
did start watching 101 Dalmatians after, but then he said it got too scary, so we had to turn it off.
Mm.
So I'm like, I think he like kind of likes it. He's kind
Yeah.
of growing into like an actual person, so it's kind of weird.
Oh.
Trying to see what he's gonna like and what he's not gonna like.
Yeah.
able to hold the attention of Oliver at least for a while, and
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very impressive. Yeah.
yeah.
the most
And he
ringing.
was intrigued.
Yeah, if as long as you're able to, because this is aimed at kids, so as long as you can sort of capture that audience, that's the most ringing endorsement you can possibly have. So, awesome.
Oh, well, someone has to tell him. Someone has to tell George Lucas this movie was also for boys.
You need
Yes. There we go. Yeah.
a lead marketing asset for some of these film
Put
companies.
Oliver on the poster. Oliver approved.
Amazing. Yes.
So we'll go around final thoughts, and then yeah, if you got any social media you want to share. But thank you so much, Lara and Bridget, for joining me on Strange Magic. Whoever wants to start. Bridget, you join the call first, and maybe if you want to go.
Okay, so I was gonna ask, have you guys heard of Spellbound on Netflix?
Oh, Rachel Zegler's in that. Yeah,
Yes.
with Alan Menken music.
It's on Netflix, so
Yes.
that's an option for later. It's animated.
Yes.
I didn't know about it. I saw a clip on Facebook, I think, of her singing.
Yes,
for
I
the
saw
movie.
that as well.
And I was like, what is this? And then I saw it on Netflix and I was like, interested. I like musicals and animated
Love
films.
her. Love her voice.
Yeah. She's great.
And Alan Menken, the GOAT when
everywhere.
it comes to musical compositions, especially for animation. So, yeah.
But yeah, final thoughts. Cute movie. And you can find me on Instagram. It's Bridget5246. That's Bridge with a T, 5246.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Laura, thank you for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been nice to kind of revisit sort of like Wicked adjacent stuff, but also Frozen adjacent. Like I'm always here for it. And this was charming, and it was a lot at the same time. But I'm here for the chaos, you know? It's a good time. The things I can plug. I actually recently made a princess Instagram. So while we're all talking about these characters and stuff, you can go follow at Part of Lara's World. You can kind of see what that's named after. That's where all my princess content is. So yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been the Thoughtcast. Conversations about animation, thoughtcast.com, at Thoughtcast on socials. I'm Philip Elke. You can find me at Philip Elke on socials. And yeah, this is a film that, I don't know, there's in some capacity strength in the Force because of a certain guiding hand, but perhaps not as strong. The midichlorian count.
I was gonna say midichlorians. Oh boy,
not as high as it could be, but that's okay. It exists, and we're able to watch it. And I've seen it maybe 3 times now, just because it's got kind of a quality to it that appeals to me in general. And if I revisit it again, it'll probably be showing my own kids or something.
The younglings approve. Yeah.
Yes. Let's just introduce a modern classic like Strange Magic to the new generation of younglings. Because
a hidden gem, you might say.
Quality animation. Yeah. I mean, it's a very well produced and polished film. You know, just a few gripes here and there with the visual quality of the film, but I mean overall it's very impressive. And just the plot, the storytelling, it leaves some to be desired. But hey, George Lucas had a playlist of songs that he curated over the course of a couple decades, and was able to put them up on screen. I mean, of course, who knows how big a fan of Beyonce? Probably, Crazy in Love.
Oh yeah, I forgot. They plugged that song, and I was like, "What is happening right now?"
Kelly Clarkson. There was interesting mishmashes. Yeah.
Well, it was like, I think they did "Can't Help Falling in Love" mixed with "Crazy in Love," and I was like, "This is weird. This is a weird mix-up."
I mean, dig the ELO. I mean,
you gotta have the title song. Yeah.
I know. I wish they would have included that one more. They did Sugar Pie Honey Bunch and Can't Help Falling in Love a lot more than Strange Magic. And I'm like, come on, you guys. We need the title song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, Three Little Bird, Bob Marley. Yeah. So I guess kudos for them putting the money down for this content library that they were able to feature. There were, I think, some Beatles songs that he wanted to include, but those were too expensive. Makes sense. All right. Well, this has been the Thoughtcast, conversations about animation, and may the Force be with you. Of course, have a magical day. Have a wonderful week. Warm hugs.